Yeah, saying prepare live stream. All right, I don't need to keep YouTube up, right? I can kill that on my screen, right? Perfect. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Michelle, where's your tech support daughter that can make me lock these two screens together?
Drag one from the middle bar over to one side until you see
Right.
and then drag the other bar over to the other side and it should pop to that side.
I can't. It's not working.
Drag it. Try dragging it to the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Like,
oh, yay.
yeah, did it do that then? Yeah.
I think so.
All right. Good.
Maybe.
If not, I'll send her down the block.
Yeah, right. Tech support.
She laughed at me and I was like, Elizabeth, when I went to college, there were no such thing as computers. Everything I know about computers is self-taught. I didn't take a class on computers.
I had a word processor that was the size of my coffee table.
Well, that was more than I had. I'm
Ugh.
showing my age. I went with a typewriter to college.
I
All right.
still use a typewriter.
It's 6:30. We're gonna get started here. So we will do the call to order now. And then the open public meeting statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which time any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act and the Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board offices and at Bound Brook High School, and mailed or faxed to the Courier News, Bound Brook Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. At this time, if we can have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Autry.
Here.
Mr. Ball.
Here.
Mr. Bohm. Ms. Musson.
Here.
Ms. Martinez.
She is
Ms.
here.
Morris.
Here.
She's here? Okay. Ms. Morris.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Ms. Rosamano.
Here.
Mr. Vadalaire.
Here.
He's here. Ms. DeFazio.
Here.
Okay, president's comments.
Whew. I just got to say, as a teacher myself, this is not the way we came into wanting to teach, but the fact that we're still pulling it out and that they're still, doing what they have to do in educating our children, I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate the people that come and give the food twice a week, 3 times a week, all the volunteers. It's just wonderful. It really came together. I'm very proud of everyone. So I'm happy to live in this town of Bound Brook and be part of it. So congratulations to all of you.
We will start with students of the month for pre-K. Christian Hernandez Arena. Kindergarten is Jeanette Betancourt. First grade is Jaden Parrow. Second grade is Guadalupe Rivera D. Calderon. Third grade is Juan Pablo Mendez. Fourth grade, Benny Velasco Dominguez. Fifth grade is Christian Cindino Perez. Sixth grade, Amina Ahmad. Seventh grade, Amy Navarro. Eighth grade is Gabriela Silva. Ninth grade, Jose Nunez. All right, somebody has to shut off their YouTube because we're getting backfeed again. Can hear it now. Okay. 10th grade, Kenneth Meridia Rojas. 11th grade, Anna Toro Paso. And 12th grade is Jazana Walsh. GEM Awards for the month. For Lamont Annex, Jatan Brimage. For Lafayette, Vivian Cologne Brito. For Smalley, Jeffrey Jagle. For Community Middle School, Giovanna Lamera. For Boundbrook High School, Abigail Pendleton. And for Boundbrook High School, for Boundbrook School District, Anne-Marie Wolford. On that note, we'll go straight into committees. We had 2 committee meetings this month. We had the Ed Committee. We went over getting the Homework Policy Committee started. We talked about our virtual learning surveys that we've been getting back. We talked about virtual grading. We talked about our plan for graduation. We talked about the RFP that we'll be approving tonight for the substitutes, going out for the substitutes. Okay. We talked about our community engagement plan, camera protocols, reentry plan, and programs. We also had our governance meeting tonight. We talked about Chromebooks for seniors, the homework policy, and our upcoming budget. Does anybody have any questions about those items? Okay, so we're down to public content for agenda items only. We have our Google form, which people can fill in as we're going through the course of the meeting. So we're at this point where if you have a question, you can ask it for agenda items. So the first one is from Michelle Conover, 5th grade teacher Smalley. 8.2 COVID pandemic plan. Can you share what it is in the COVID pandemic plan with the public? Our plan, the old plan is on the website. It has been there, and as soon as this one's approved, it will also be up on the website. Patricia O'Reilly, 745 Schoolhouse Lane. How may the public view the pandemic disease plan that was mentioned in the agenda? I already answered that question. Can the public make recommendations on the plan if they desire? You can always make a comment about it, but we're following the guidelines of the state of New Jersey. I know that many districts have had troubles getting substitutes. How is the need for substitutes advertised? We're doing an RFP right now. That's a request for proposals. And how do we pay substitutes compared with neighboring districts? We're right in the middle with our neighboring districts. Let's see if any other comments on the agenda have come through. No other items have come through at this point in time. I'll wait another couple minutes, another minute or so to see if anybody has any other comments. Have come through at this point in time. I'll wait another couple minutes, another minute or so to see if anybody has any other comments. Who's playing the YouTube? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move to the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from 4/20/2020 and the minutes for 4/27/2020. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Morris, seconded by Mr. Fazio. Questions, concerns, discussion? Does anybody have to abstain?
I have to abstain from the 20th. I was not there.
Okay,
Okay.
I have to abstain from the 27th, it looks like.
okay. Any other discussion? Mike, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Autry,
Yes, on the 20th, abstain for the 27th.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Ms. Mussin,
Yes, for 5.2, abstain from 5.1.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
Carries.
We're up to section 6, personnel resolutions. Resolved, the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in personnel resolutions under district and high school. That is 6.2 through 6.13. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Fazio. Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Vadalaire. Discussion.
Dan, with the transfer and changes of assignments, is that, I know we had put in place requests for teachers for assignments. Is that the same for staff, or how are those changes and transfers decided upon?
Teachers and secretaries, I with the secretaries, I sent out a request. Unfortunately, we had one particular secretary ask for a transfer early on, and then with have to make some moves and deleting a secretary position, it caused us to have to move a second secretary. So that's kind of where we're at to fill what we needed to fill, especially with deleting a secretary.
Okay.
I just have a question with the student teachers observers. What happens if there's like the worst case scenarios, we're not open for the school year start? Are they still going to observe the other virtually, or is this only if it's an in-person?
No,
classroom?
again, to meet those requirements for their diplomas and their certifications stuff, we would include them virtually at
Okay.
that point in time. Any other comments?
Oh, yeah, I had a question. With the summer employment, when do we get the thumbs up, thumbs down about summer employment? Those are people that applied for the position, and how are we handling that? Are we definitely doing those programs over the summer?
The only ones that we're definitely doing right now is ESY.
Okay.
We will probably do summer school as well on a virtual platform. But again, it's not going to happen right at this meeting. It'll probably be the next meeting. We're hoping for a little bit more guidance from the Department of Education, because obviously it could affect our staffing one way or another if we're in district versus out of district.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Steinmetz, roll call.
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Ms. Mussin,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We're up to section 7, personnel resolutions, middle and elementary. Resolved, the superintendent recommends for approval resolutions as outlined in personnel resolutions under middle and elementary schools. We have 7.2 through 7.16. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Fazio, a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Martinez. Discussion. Ms. Rosamano?
For the secretary position for special services, I believe there's two. That
Yes.
are gonna be in special. Are either one of them bilingual?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Simons, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Ms. Mussin,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens, Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Abstain.
okay, noted, and Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
All right, education resolutions, district and high school. Resolved, the Bamberg Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in educational resolutions under district and high school. We have 8.2 and 8.3. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Fazio, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bell. Discussion.
I know we've always gone back and forth with the calendar. Has that been approved through the union? Have you?
Yeah, we're in this year's calendar. So that's the one you're approving. That's the give
Okay,
back.
that's just, okay.
That's
all
the
right.
give back days. Any other questions?
I do have a question about the 8.2
Okay.
and high school graduation.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to happen? I saw it, I see it outlined, but how? The past 10 weeks I've been dealing with ceremonies and rituals, and this is a ceremony and ritual. How can you ensure safety?
Well, again, we're going to follow the executive order that the governor put out, Executive Order 107. And what we're going to do is we can control our facility. So we'll be controlling our facility to only have the required amount of people that we need to safely do what we need to do, keeping the 6 foot social distancing, the masks, and movement through the facility.
The facility being the football field.
Correct.
Okay. And it's one student and 4 members of their household?
Of their household, people who are living with them, yes.
Okay. How will that be controlled? How will you ensure that none of them are under quarantine? And then what happens off of the property? Because this has been my daily dilemma for almost 10 weeks. It's not what happens on our property, it's what happens afterwards. Who will ensure that one car leaves and one car comes in? Who is going to be there to ensure that the students and the families that have not seen each other for 3 months or longer aren't gathering, aren't maintaining social distancing? Who will be responsible for that?
We will have a staff member on the street to ensure that people stay in their cars until till their appointment time, and then they can enter the facility.
Okay. Does that staff member count as the under 10?
He does not, because he's not in the facility, he's outside the facility.
But it's part of our gathering.
No.
It's part, yes. This has been my day in and day out. Every funeral directors, and I'm sorry, it's been part of what we've been dealing with day in and day out. Who will ensure it's 10 or under?
Inside the facility, 10 or under, yes.
You don't feel that there's an obligation outside on Crusader Way?
I just said I would have a staff member outside on Crusader Way to make sure people don't leave their car until the appointed time.
All right. while it is observing Executive Order 107, social distancing, and under 10 guidance, I feel that it is violating the Administrative Order 2024 N12, which specifically talks about ceremonies and gatherings.
Again, our plan has gone through the county. We're not the only school district that is planning to do something along the lines that we're doing. The guidance that we've been given has been pretty clear to make sure that we adhere to Executive Order 107. And we also have the blessing of the Bamberg Police Department for this particular idea that we have for graduation.
Dan, will the police department, will they send people to also help direct traffic if there's an issue with cars building up by the
Well,
school?
I'm hoping to have the SRO out on Crusader Way to ensure the social distancing with the appointment times. I figure having our SRO up there, it gives us both not only one of our staff members, but a police officer that will be there. Inside the facility, we'll be able to manage what we do inside the facility.
How many district representatives will there be inside the facility, in Crusader, within the gates of the football field?
You will have the videographer, and you will have at least three district members at that point in time.
At least or at maximum?
At least. The maximum I could have is 4.
What about custodial staff?
I don't think I'm going to need it.
The plan says there'll be custodials. There will be sanitation in between. Who's going?
Again, I don't think I need sanitation in between. That's my point. They're walking across the stage and they're picking up a jacket. So they're only touching the diploma jacket and taking it with them. So what is there to sanitize?
The area will be sanitized by the custodial staff prior to the next family entering the area. That's G.
Yes, I understand that. And that was in case we need to do any sanitizing. But at this moment in time, I don't think we need to do any sanitizing. If we do, that will be the 4th person from the district.
I had a question about the timing and the flow. It says that there's going to be appointments for each student throughout the whole week. So that gives me the impression that it's not as though we're going to have this stream of 100 people trying to do this in one day. We're spreading it out over the course of a week or so. Is that correct? So there shouldn't be a ton of people on Crusader Way. It should just be just a handful.
You would think. I mean, we're spreading it out so we don't get a congestion of people or a line of people waiting to do this. We're giving out specific appointment times, so this way we can control and monitor the number of people who are getting there.
What are the total number of graduates that we're talking about? this year?
130.
130. And you think that 1 week is sufficient? I thought we had like a week and a half was.
Ed put together a schedule, so I think he has it down to a week.
Mhm.
Actually, I think he has it down to 4 days.
Everybody is comfortable with the potential exposure of 130 times 4.
Well, it's voluntary for the student and their parents whether or not they want to do this. That's optional on their part. I'm completely comfortable being there. I told Ed I'm completely comfortable, and if Ed doesn't want to be there, he doesn't have to be, but I will be there.
How will appointments get made? Do the students get to pick the time? Is it alphabetical?
It's going to
You
be
know,
alphabetical.
How will we then, if it's alphabetical, how do we make sure that I presumably we're doing this so that the students and their families, there are 4 people that come with them get to do it. But if they have to go to work at their allotted time, is there a way that we'll be able to, that they'll be able to say, hey, can I reschedule for a different time where my, parents aren't working or anything like that?
I'm not exactly sure we'll be able to accommodate that at this point in time. We have to do it outside. We can't do it inside. So we're really limited to a certain amount of time to do it, so we can give the video people enough time to put the video together. So we're going to do our best to accommodate where we can, but I can't make guarantees at this moment in time.
My only question with that is how do we like vet like people who have like COVID? How do we know if they had COVID, if they cured, or if they live with someone who had COVID? How do we know for a fact that someone isn't going there who has COVID? And we can't like it's like we can't really say much to them because it's like a HIPAA violation to be like, please report your like health status.
Again, if you have COVID and you've been identified by the health department, you're basically stuck at home. They're not to leave home. Again, I'm not even sure if they would be well enough to leave home if they had COVID. In terms of people who've had COVID, does it really matter if they had it and they've recovered? I don't think that really matters.
It does. You're inviting the potential for community spread. I recognize the importance of rituals and ceremonies. It's been something I've been dealing with, but can it be delayed? There was talk about liability later in the year, in the fall, to bring the graduating class back. What's the level of liability versus September, October, November versus now, where we're still under an executive order that is prohibiting this? There
Again,
have been outdoor funerals that have been shut down. Outside does not make you immune. I'm sorry, I don't like this.
no, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but at this point in time, we've done our best due diligence. We've sent our stuff to the Department of Education, which has said as long as we're in line with Executive Order 107, that we can do this. So we're trying to put something together for our seniors that makes sense, that's safe, that we have the opportunity to afford them to walk across the stage, videotape that, and put together a complete video of an entire graduation so they would have something, so they don't feel like they completely missed out on everything in the end of their senior year. So that was our goal. That's what we've proposed. That's what we've advocated for. That's what we seem to have been okayed to do from the department. We're not the only school district that's doing it. And you have a governor who keeps going on TV and says he's not ruling out in-person graduations at this point in time either. So all the mixed messages are out there. And I think that right now, the sensible thing to do is to prepare something like this that adheres to the social distancing, the masks, and do something that we can do that's safe and affords our kids the opportunity to walk across the stage.
There's a letter dated May 9th that says it's prohibited except if it's strictly virtual. Now, there is no definition for strictly virtual, but this to me falls under in person. And I appreciate and recognize the lengths that you've gone through for social distancing and keeping the touch apart, but it doesn't seem like it's adhering to the letter from Callahan that's dated May 9th. Nor the memo from the Department of Ed dated the 8th.
I can only give you the information that I have. If you feel as though that we should not do this, then I would say vote no onto 8.2.
Okay. Do you have something that says this is okay? You implied you did, but I
Again,
have two things that say no.
Again, I can only tell you the conversation I've had with the executive county superintendent.
Okay. Okay.
Any other discussion?
Are we planning on doing anything for 8th graders, or is that just?
Our
Okay.
plan was what we do with high school. The following week, we would do with 8th grade up at the football field.
Okay.
But again, if 8.2 goes down, then we're probably going to do nothing but virtual.
Which is the guidance from Callahan and the Department of Ed.
8.2 is our new pandemic communicable disease plan with the
Right.
checklist from the Department of Education, which includes all of the stuff that's in there. So again, I've had in-depth conversations with the executive county superintendent. I have spoken to him on numerous occasions about this. As you've seen in the newspapers, there are a number of districts that are already rolling this out. And it's been
I
in the
have
paper.
not seen that.
Okay. It has been on NJ.com and it's been in the newspapers. Again, this is what we were told we were allowed to do as long as we stay within the intent of Executive Order 107, which is also in the plan and is clearly stated in the plan because that's what Roger Jinks, the Executive County Superintendent, wanted in our plan, so we can be crystal clear that we're following Executive Order 107.
Which I believe his last statement was they're recommending virtual.
Again, the department's not recommending anything. The department is silent.
Going back to Executive Order 107, which was in the plan that we reviewed, just going back to the sanitizing aspect, I understand that you feel like they're picking up their diploma jacket and walking away, but the sanitizing seems incredibly critical. What if they sneeze? They're picking it up from some sort of surface. What if they sneeze on that surface, or just anything with germs just seems very unsafe to not sanitize at all. We're allowed to go to the grocery store, but there's supposed to be a continual cleaning of high touch surfaces and things like that. So I just want to know what the rationale is behind thinking that sanitizing would be optional between people.
What are we cleaning?
Well, I
Well,
think
what is
I think what she's saying is like the table, whatever table it is that you're putting the diploma on, has the potential.
I'll wipe it down in between. Not a problem.
All right. Yeah. So whatever surface it is that where between your touch and what they're picking it up, as long as it's cleaned in between, I think, just to be abundantly cautious, I think that would be a good idea.
Handrails?
And that as well.
Fine.
And the graduate will be wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's the requirement. They're going to have to wear a mask.
what do we do if they show up without a mask? We just turn
They
them
don't
away
enter the facility. They go home.
What if they're late to their appointment?
If they miss their appointment, they miss their appointment. Any other questions?
I appreciate what's trying to be done, and I think it would be amazing. I just don't feel that it's safe with community spread still being an issue right now. It's slowing down, but it's still very real. I'm seeing it every day.
Then my suggestion is that the board vote no on 8.2. Mike, can we get a roll call?
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Ms. Mussin,
Oh,
Ms. Martinez,
No to 8.2.
I'm sorry, can I amend no to 8.2, 8.3, yes? I'm sorry, Mike.
you can do that.
Thank you, sorry.
Taking advantage of my slowness, that's fine. Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Abstain from 8.2, yes, 8.3.
Abstain from 8.2.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are up to section 9, approval of special service resolutions. Resolved, Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in special services resolutions. And we only have one, 9.2. Can I get a roll call? I'm sorry, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion,
Motion,
seconded.
Mrs. Morris, seconded by Mr. Fazio. Discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Steinmetz, roll call.
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Baal,
Yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Abstain.
abstain, and Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
Thank you. We're up to section 10, finance resolutions. Resolved, the Bamberg Board of Education approves resolutions as outlined in financial resolutions 10.2 through 10.13. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Fazio, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Vadalaire. Discussion.
Sorry, could you just speak a little bit more about the summer food service program? I saw the little packet in there, but just, for the record, wanted to know a little bit more about it.
We do the summer food program every year. It's during the course of the summer that anybody under the age of 18 who wants breakfast or lunch can come to the district and have breakfast or lunch.
And will that be set up kind of the same way that it's being done right now with pickups until further notice?
I do not know. We haven't gotten guidance on summer food for the summer. My guess would be that it's going to be the same exact setup as we're currently doing, which is probably Monday pickup for 2 days, Wednesday pickup for 3.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Steinmetz, roll call.
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Baal,
Yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Mrs. Martinez?
Sorry. Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio.
Done. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other matters to come before the board or new business?
I just want to say to the board, I sent out an email for the evaluation. I have, I think, only 4 people up at this time. I haven't checked over the weekend, but we really, in order to make sure that we're in on time for that, I'd really like that by the end of May at latest. So that'll give me, there's, after you guys are done, we have to do an executive together. And then we have to do an executive with Dr. Gallagher. So we're really under the crunch. So I would really appreciate if you could get that in.
Any other new business? Okay. We are open to the public for anything. We have one in right now, and that's from Mrs. O'Reilly, 745 Schoolhouse Lane. When the Board of Education meetings are held in the cafeteria high school auditorium, members of the public commonly come up with questions that are triggered from remarks made by BOE members and/or superintendent during the course of the meeting. In other words, one member of the public may get up, ask a question, and the response from the board member or superintendent triggers another question from the member of the public. How may the public ask questions on the fly when you think of them during the course of the BO meeting? During YouTube broadcast, members of the public have been posting questions as the meeting proceeds. Why can't there be a moderator to look at this feed so the questions posed during the feed can be answered? Again, board meetings are set up in such a manner that there's 2 points in time where you have 1 point in time where you can ask questions about the agenda, and there's another point in time where you can ask questions, any questions for the board. We're not moderating a chat feed, nor should we be moderating a chat feed. I think that would be against our meeting protocols and policies. But most importantly, how may the public ask questions that come about from a comment during the board meeting? We have this Google form. You can fill it in at any point in time. That includes right now during the course of the meeting. And I will wait another minute just to see if anybody has any other responses.
Yeah, I think, didn't we talk about giving, like 3 or 4 minutes, like a good chunk of time so that anyone that's listening to this, because I don't know, it could be delayed on YouTube.
There's a
give them-
delay.
Yeah, to give them, sufficient time to pose those, questions after hearing, remarks that have been made.
Right.
I don't know that there is a workaround for that on the fly type of thing.
Well, I think we had talked, Joanna, about like leaving a 5-minute window, just to give that people 5 minutes to go on and ask those
Right. No,
follow-ups.
Right. But I'm saying like, I don't know that other than that delay that we're doing, like, I don't know of another, like,
We
another
just
workaround.
got
I feel like
we
that's.
just got another one from Lauren Paxton, 10 Page Street. Did you get this? Trying to see how quick you get questions based off of Patricia's question. So I would think that's pretty quick.
Right. So I think if we leave like a 5-minute, okay, 5 minutes from now till we close the meeting, I think that should give people a sufficient amount of time to, follow up with any questions that they might have or concerns.
We have another question. Patricia O'Reilly, address we know. Did you see this question mark? Yes. Another question. Vicky N. Oldbridge. Why are pre-K teachers assistants listed as unrepresented staff members? They are listed as staff members. It doesn't say whether they're represented or unrepresented.
Aren't they represented?
They are represented, but in our agenda, it just says staff members. It doesn't say whether or not they're represented.
All right. So just to be clear, they are represented though.
Yes, they are represented. We have another question. John Campbell, 2230 Wesley. John Campbell, 230 Wesley Lane. Given that schools closed mid-March and leadership will have had 6 months by September to prepare Plan A and B, please describe what Plan A looks like, assuming Plan A is to open schools with students in their currently closed classrooms. We are in the midst of developing our re-entry plan. I do not have specifics on that at this point in time. A lot will have to do with social distancing and whether or not we have to provide PPEs for students and staff. There's a number of things that go into this. Obviously, if we're going to be in for school for a full day, there's no way we can social distance and keep masks on kids while they're eating, and we can't have 200 kids in our cafeteria. There's also a whole host of questions about, movement in the hallways and trying to keep kids socially distanced in the hallways as well as in classrooms. Our buildings are extremely old, most of which are over 100 years old. The classroom sizes are not conducive to keeping 6-foot distances between all students. So we will have to wait for some direct guidance that comes out of the State Department to give us some idea of what they're expecting from us, whether it's a split day schedule, some sort of blended learning situation, and how we can house kids. Another question. Pat, 745. Did you answer my first question about pandemic plan and subs? Yes, I did at the beginning of the meeting. The pandemic plan will be posted on the board website after it's approved. The old one is currently there. The new one will be updated tomorrow. And substitutes, we're sending out a RFP, which is a request for proposal on substitutes. And our current substitute rate is right in average with the county. Another question. Lauren Paxton, 10 Page Street. Are security aides now in the BBEA as the agenda shows? I do not believe the agenda shows security aides as represented or unrepresented. They are unrepresented and will continue to be unrepresented.
Learning. You had mentioned, going back to the question, some sort of like blended learning. Is that like a hybrid of kids who are home and kids who are in class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's so hard. It's so hard to figure out what we're going to do in September, and we're developing multitude of plans. Again, a lot of discussion is, when this executive order, or if this executive order times out, doesn't get reissued or anything like that. As a school district, without an executive order, we must open the doors and bring all the kids back.
Right.
So obviously that's a concern for us, especially if we're going into the fall without any direct guidance from the Department of Education on, are we required to keep the social distance, the masks, the gloves, all the stuff that's going on now.
Right.
With that, obviously, is funding. We all know our funding is delayed, and it's going to be delayed for quite some time. So again, I don't know how we fund a lot of things that people are talking about with schools, nor do we have the space to pull it off. So I really do think we have to wait and see what the guidance is going to be. But a blended learning would give us the option of reducing the amount of kids coming in, keeping some online, and shifting back and forth. We have another question. Jackie Beers, Flemington, New Jersey. Will Lamont/Annex have a security aid in either building? No.
Is that out of necessity for staffing?
What, the security aid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now we've cut where we needed to cut to get us to the 20%. if funding changes, and we talked about this at governance, if the funding changes and we don't get cut the 20% that we're basically predicting, or
Right.
there's another stimulus bill that comes out of the federal government that puts money back in, it's easy for us to add things back in. It's not so easy to take away.
Okay.
So we plan for the worst. We plan for what we think is the worst case scenario. Hopefully more money comes in and we restore things.
Going back to the blended learning, short
Yeah.
of an executive order saying otherwise, would that be something that would be left up to the parents?
No,
No.
that would have to come out as a directive to school districts. Our mandate in the way, again, everything always comes back and tied to funding, unfortunately. We have to be in school for 180 days. They count attendance based on each day. And the way attendance is counted is the physical kids in the building. So again, they would have to come out with some sort of legislative, new legislative law to allow blended learning, or an executive order, or some sort of health crisis.
Okay.
I don't see any more questions. Do you want me to wait a little longer, or do you want to move on? That's a question for you, Michelle.
What time did the last question come in?
Last question came in probably a minute. Oh, we got another question. Just
That's what I was gonna say, a couple minutes from whenever the last one came in.
Okay, Jackie Beers, Flemington, New Jersey. There will be a nurse for Lamont Annex. She will be crossing back and forth between both buildings to see sick children, or will we be crossing crossing our students to see her? The nurse you have one nurse at Lamont Annex. There's only 2 grades there, and she will be going back and forth. Next question. Campbell Wheelie, who is Jay Merriman? It's R. Merriman, and he happens to be the board attorney. Patricia O'Reilly, 745 Schoolhouse. I have no other questions. Thanks for letting me pose those questions during the meeting.
All right, is everyone okay at this time? Raise your hand if you think we have waited sufficiently for any further questions. I think waiting really did a good job, but I think we may be at we're good? All right, well then I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
No.
Oh, what do we have to, oh, I'm sorry, we can't even adjourn yet. Sorry, guys. It was wishful thinking. A motion for the Hibbs.
HIP.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're up to Hibbs, it's middle and high school. Resolved, Bamberg Board of Education approves of the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases at middle and high school. And it is only one item and it's 15.2. Can I get a motion?
motion.
Motion, Mr. Fazio, second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Morris. Discussion? None. Roll call vote, Mike?
Mr. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Ball,
Mr. Ball?
Mr. Ball,
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Rosamano,
Yes.
Mr. Vadalaire,
Abstain.
Ms. DeFazio.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now can I make that a motion?
Now you may.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. See
Have a great-
everybody in a week or so.
All right. Stay safe.
Take
All right.
care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.